Rods of God. Oh boy. This is something of a rant, so it's not going to be as loud as when it started. Of course, the lights come on when I start. So, yeah, Rods of God. I titled it that for a lot of different reasons, but I won't speak about them. Anyways, um, I wanted to talk about the inevitability of the modern relationships. So, the guy you got replaced for, he's with your, your significant other or whatever, right? What up, JR? So, whenever that happens, I'm sure some people in this space know the saying, she's not yours, it's just your turn. Um, Saying it and coming to terms with it are two very different things, right? Because when you're first in a relationship, even if you're so-called red pill, it really doesn't hit you until it happens, and then after it happens, then it slowly sinks in. For some, it takes a week. For some, it takes a year. For some, they never learn it. Some people can't handle it; they just lose it. Um, but I think the craziest thing is you take that to its greatest end. The people who control the world, they're trying to push men to a position where the women that they are with are the women that they're with are supposed to, like, they're trying to push the women to have multiple partners but be committed to one guy. In other words, they're trying to push polyamory, right? But the way they're doing it, if you look at how they're orchestrating it, it's it's pretty predictable, but it's not really going to go very well. So my initial thoughts for what happened to me with the guy who replaced me, right? From what I could see, he was like he's in the army. He's United States Army. I think he's like cadet. I forgot what it's called, like a cadet ranger or something like that. He Yeah, it's weird. Uh, it's weird nowadays how Tinder and Instagram can kind of be the difference between you being with someone you've known for a long time and not being with them. I think that's kind of crazy. Just to say, some of these things is just me getting stuff off my chest. Uh, there's a lot of stuff that that I think that I'm still dealing with, and part of me wants to help others while I'm dealing with it, but I don't even know if that's possible fully. Uh, so the reason why I gave it such an intense title and with the explosion is because it it's kind of to demonstrate just how serious a lot of this stuff is. There's a lot of men who take the most drastic measures. They take the most desperate measures possible after their girlfriend or fiance or wife decides to flip the switch. They decide to flip the sociopathic switch. And after that happens, then the they reveal the truth, or they reveal the lack of desire, and then the guy panics, he freaks out. A lot of them get emotional. I got emotional. Here, let me actually. I responded to you, but do it in here. I got emotional. I I got super emotional. I started sending angry texts. I started. It was really out of character. But if I could listen, if I could in that moment, if I could talk to the version of me that is right here, if I could see the version of me here back then and listen to what his perspective was, I think things would have been different. Uh, the craziness. What's weird is like I think the interactions after that situation. There's not really a lot. There's not really an up from there. But ugh. So the reason why guys get crushed for the most part is because they still live in fantasy land. They still live in in the world that was created for us. And I guess my thing is understanding that world's not really here. It doesn't really exist, right? You devote all your time and energy to a person, and the person can leave you at any given moment just based off of their emotions. I remember when I was talking to my ex after she left, I brought up her intuition because she strongly believes in intuition. And I was like, is this something you're intuiting that this is a thing that you want to do? And she was like shaking her head, like, uh-huh. And then after the fact, she was regretful, right? She was like, she had a lot of regret. She was like, I miss you, right? You don't get to decide how long women stay. You don't get to decide whether you're going to get access to fun times, right? The only thing you get to decide is how much dignity you have in the relationship. And that was, I think, the hardest thing I had to learn. That rod of God is the discipline. It's the action a man takes without impunity that the woman responds to. I'll make a video on this, but I've learned that a lot of women's morality is retroactive. Their morality is based off of the response that you have, right? So if you respond a certain way, then they'll shift their moral compass based off of how you respond. We talk about uh, S tests, right? We talk about tests that women give, and when you pass the test, they treat you like a human being. But when you fail the test, they treat you like a subhuman, right? Um, and they give you these tests over and over and over and over and over until you're dead or gone, out of the relationship. Now, if they like the guy, they'll stop testing as much. Then you'll just get smaller. I guess they'll tease after, and there will be points where they want to see strength from a man. I think a lot of men develop that weapon, the rods of God. It comes after experiencing an insane amount of pain. Some men, they learn it after dealing with countless women. Some men, it only takes one woman and they instantly harm themselves. Um, but this is a very devastating weapon because it does two things. It solidifies instant respect and in the woman's mind, and even let's take the woman out of it, right? If you left the situation, it would put you in a high. Yes, you would have I just lost this and it's going to take months and months and maybe even a year to get a new one, right? I understand the difficulty of being a guy and you have to develop the confidence, you have to lift, and then you have to go out and approach and talk to, talk up women or be around them to the point where they give you choosing signals. And then you go from there, or you just live your life, right? You do what you want to do, and then eventually you run into them. Um, it seems like a lot of times with us, with guys, you can't want women. You you can only want you can only live, right? Because when you want women, they never come. But when you don't want them, they come. The universe is kind of an asshole like that. But I guess it's just how it is. But it's same thing with wealth and anything else. If you don't have a whole lot of wealth, then it's gonna get worse, right? You're gonna get even less wealth over time. But if you have a whole lot of wealth, wealth will just be handed to you without you even having to earn it. Um, right? You'll be able to get loans. You'll be able to get uh, gifts. As like, oh, here, take this car, or take this house, or something like that, right? Um, that's just how it is. So a lot of times the guys we consider to be the top 10, 15%, they're in that they're in that energetic dynamic where they have so many options that options are just thrown at them because that's the energy that they're projecting, is that they have infinite options. Now, a guy who doesn't have options could also embody that energy, but it would be an uphill battle, right? Because he's battling his own. I guess he would have to change his consciousness, change how he thinks. That's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. I think it's an uphill battle, but it is possible. We get one try, one try with a woman long term, midterm, and then things go away. And it's weird, right? Because you're you're starting a relationship thinking things will work out. You think that this is the person you're supposed to be with. But the reality of the situation is many times people are cruel when they see that they have power over you in whatever capacity it is. Because some people, they see that you have emotional ties to them. Now you have people who respond with endearment, they'll respond in a very protective way, like I have to protect this. But then you have people who respond in a the immature version of this would be, ooh, I can get what I want out of this person because I have my strings in them, is the phrasing that people use. This is the more manipulative, more the darker, you know, more satanic version of things that is kind of mainstream now, where people we just use each other, even when we're not intending to. We use We use, and then when we see the person has no other use to us, we discard them. Uh, it's very dark, but it's become very common. I was on Tinder recently, and someone friended me, right? Or someone not friended, matched with me. I think it was one or two people. So the first match, they responded like three times, and they were pretty much like, "Oh yeah, I want to talk to you, get to know you." I got rid of their, I got rid of them, right? And then the other person, they matched. I got rid of her because Tinder, Tinder is it. I was talking to a lady, and she said that Tinder and social media boost men's confidence in a dating world. And I was like, wait, what? Like, you actually believe that? And it was funny hearing it because, like, I told her, I was like, no, like, guys only get like one or two matches every other week or every 2 or 3 weeks, right? So, like, it actually drops our confidence because we could be sitting there for hours swiping, and we could actually get to the point to where we have a conversation with a woman, but then it's ignored. Then she responds with one word, one phrase, because she wants you to carry the conversation. I think if you're using social media, you gotta pretty much be the top of the crop in terms of looks. Because if you're not, if you're average looking guy, even if you're a decent or handsome looking guy, you're fighting the final boss on speed mode, and there's no instructionals. There's no precursor. There's no button check. There's nothing. You're just straight in, balls to the wall. Yeah. Something a little more significant. You gotta that voice inside of your head, and I know everyone's different. We all have our different personalities and things like that. The modern relationship has become a place of. It's become a place where people go to rot. It's become unsafe. It's become unfeeling. It's become like the people I've interacted with in the past. They didn't want me to treat them like human beings. They wanted me to treat them like a subhuman, and this was their strongest desire. But when I tried to elevate them to a human, just a normal person, they despised me for it. And so, like guys who were competing in the market efficiently, effectively, they're treating as many people as they can as a subhuman, in my opinion. And this is, they're just responding in a way that gets them what they want. As sick as it is, it's where okay, the end justifies the means. So let go of you'll get this whimsical feeling, right? This feeling where you're like, oh, if I if I wait and just take my time, she'll she'll care about me. If I just give her one more thing, if I just if I give them one more ounce of one more act of love, one more small thing that they could notice if they want or not, then they'll notice me. Then the relationship will start to work. Then things will start to flow. Figure this into that equation. They know that you're chasing for their validation, but their hearts are so dark that they can't really find it in themselves to care or even feel guilt for what they're doing. They're doing it willfully. They're conscious of what's going on. They're very conscious of what's going on. They know uh, they know you like them. They know you want to be intimate with them. Um, I listen to Alan Realionaire, and he talks primarily about women, their behavior towards men. He tells men strategies to get women. And the reason why men are primarily the ones being taught how to get women or just how to get the opposite sex is because women make it hard to get them. Extremely hard. I mean, it's okay to make it hard to get yourself because then that shows that you have more value, right? That's I guess, the female game, the female uh, mating strategy is to make it at least appear difficult to get her because she already knows if she wants the guy within the first 1 or 2 minutes, right? But then there's these series of things that each individual female is going to do to to put the guy through the gamut to test to see of uh, if he's the caliber man she wants to be with, either for short term or long term. For short term, then I think it's a quicker, more snap lizard brain judgment, and we know how those go. The one night stands, they go exactly how we would suspect, right? She's crying to the on the guy's shoulder, the friend zone guy, and he's going, "Hey, it's gonna be okay," and he's thinking in his head, "I want this chick," right? Instead of just saying, "I'm not with this." So this was supposed to be an angry rant because when I said it, I was really angry, and I was. You could almost say it was an after rage, just kind of sitting in my car, angry about some of the stuff that I've been thinking about. Granted, you can't stay angry forever. Some people, they know you like them, even in the relationship. The things that they do, and I forgot to say this, but Alan Realionaire, he has a channel and he talks about relationships, and he brought up how uh, women like to disappoint people. They like to disappoint men. So, you ever talk to a woman, got her number, and she seemed interested, and she's like, "Yeah, I would like to go out," or something like that. And then you don't get anything back. This is something. This is something a lot of men experience, at least the ones brave enough to talk to them. But people are becoming more and more disappointing, just as this in this current generation. We don't really put a lot of emphasis on our own words and principles anymore. We're becoming more fickle, put more serious to the point. So all those little whimsical voices in your head where you're telling yourself, "Oh, she'll like me this time," or "She'll like me when this happens," or you know, that kind of thing. No, they're not. They're not going to. And one thing I would say is, right when you get that first sign of, their disappointment, because you'll feel when they're disappointed, like they're like, "This is all this person is," right? It's like this arrogance. It's like they're sitting on their ivory tower and they're looking down at you and they're like, is this what you are? And you're looking at them and you're thinking, what? Right? Because you can see who they truly are. But they're looking at you and they're seeing what they want to see about what you are. You always have it. You have one side who loves the other side more. They care about the other side more. And I think that's how most relationships are. I think the ones that last the longest are the relationships where both sides have a similar level of appreciation for each other. And there's also a similar level of accountability. Relationships that aren't working, there's not, it's accountability primarily that's stopping things from working because uh, in my experience, to give it just to give it a credence, I was the accountable one. I was the one that kept things flowing. If I didn't if I didn't overlook certain things or press really hard on certain things, it wouldn't have continued. And a lot of people are in that situation where they feel like they have to be the adult and the other person gets to be the child. They get to just experience a relationship. They're like the one that comes in drunk and they're like, "What are we watching tonight? What's going on?" Right? And then the other person's like, "Well, we're watching this film and it's set up. Just don't knock anything over because that took me like 3 hours to make the food." Right? And they dump everything and just like, "Shut up, put it on. Like, let's watch it." It's like, "Well, we're gonna watch it in 5 minutes, right?" So get out of your delusions. You're not gonna convince someone, especially when they start criticizing you, when they start uh, comparing you to someone else, when they start emasculating you, when they start withholding from you intimacy of any kind. You're not. It, Here's the thing: why fix it? Because you're already putting in effort. The fact that they feel comfortable enough to withhold something means that they don't have as much of an emotional bond with you as you do with them. So you're attempting to get something out of them. You're just draining yourself more and more and more. It won't work. The greatest chance you have is to literally do what this video was called, the rods of God. Refers to mm, it refers to a weapon, but in this case, I'm thinking of a more mythological weapon, right? Um, let's say the hammer of Thor. So boundaries. If you know a person doesn't love you as much as you love them, the one thing that's going to give you dignity in that situation is having boundaries. And I think this is the hardest lesson that men learn in romantic relationships. We learned that boundaries is a thing that gives us our own self-respect. It's the thing that keeps our dignity. There's a lot of things that I did that I regretted. I regretted not doing certain things. Regretted not just saying, "Okay, cool, bye," right? After being broken up with and just letting her leave because she was going to do it anyway. Sitting there trying to convince someone who's already convinced that you're wrong and that you're not enough for them. It's a foolish thing, in my opinion. Wish them well. Okay, good luck to you. Bye. Or you could just say, "Okay, bye." Shut the door. Rods of God. That's what it is. It's very simple. So you get typical people, and I did this too, where I was in the process of being broken up with, and she was saying, "Hey, it's just not gonna work, and it's because you're doing this, and it's because of this, and it's because of this, and you keep doing this, right? Um, if they like you enough, they'll overlook your mistakes. But the thing is, they don't. They won't overlook you. They won't overlook your mistakes because they don't like you at that moment. They like someone else, so they're gonna overlook the other person's mistakes. They're gonna emphasize your mistakes. Like, it's so obvious, right? I can't overlook this. But it doesn't really have anything to do with your mistakes. They just don't like you. Because here's the thing, chances are they're not perfect either. Chances are, I mean, we already know you're not perfect because they're bringing up mistakes, right? But, yeah. So you're going to have a period where it's going to hurt. It's going to feel weird to express your boundaries, but you're going to have a lot more dignity, a lot more self respect. Now, I'm not yelling and ranting. I was supposed to do a more louder rant, but I guess this tone is gonna have to work for now. Anyone watching this video, the main thing that I would hope someone would take from it, especially a guy, is that it's not really safe to have fantastical beliefs about relationships. Many times nowadays, people are very barbaric and they're very bombastic with how they deal with people. They're not nice. They're very vicious. They're savage. They're ruthless. Right? They'll pillage your heart. They'll pillage you as a person. Um, Especially women. Now, the reason why it is women is because of the social conditioning, partly, partly because of how we're raising women is what is becoming the issue. Oh boy. That being said, you're not five anymore. I'm not five anymore. And the women you're going out with, that you're interacting with, they don't really, you're not going to be able to do things that we used to do in the olden days. Sorry to tell you. Things have kind of fallen apart. It's just how it is. I got replaced in a drop of a hat, less than a week. Um, Nearly went nuts. It was not pretty. Still dealing with the emotional ramifications of that. But as much information as I thought I knew about the red pill, about reality, about the current dating market, how things work and everything like that, it got front loaded onto me real hard. Even though I've learned about this stuff, it still sucked really bad. So the one thing you can do to fix that is to develop boundaries. And when I say boundaries, I mean your bottom line. You develop something that gives you pride to follow. And yeah, it might hurt to rip the cord, but trust me. Trust me when I say this. You can plan it for like a week. You can plan it for a couple of days. You don't have to just break it cold turkey. You can be like, say your goodbyes and all that. You don't have to actually say your goodbyes. You can do it covertly. But then just cut the cord because it won't get better. It'll get worse from there. And then you'll regret not cutting it. Because I regretted not cutting it. I just kept forgiving, 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 right? Of course, I wasn't perfect either, but I wasn't claiming to be perfect. I was trying to fix what was going on. But the other person was just trying to tear and tear and tear and tear and just rip it all apart. not knowing I should have ended the thing a long time ago. It nearly ended me. So develop your rod, whatever that is. Figure out what you need to do. Figure out what you want to do to protect yourself against not just in romantic relationships, but people in general. People are becoming more selfish, less humane, less compassionate. It's kind of disturbing, but work at least work to have boundaries and discipline so that with your boundaries, so that no one can hurt you as much as people tend to get hurt. With men, they tend to want to self delete after they get either broken up with or get monkey branched on and things like that. Because they try to invest so much, and regardless of how valiant that effort is, it doesn't matter, right? Because at the end of the day, if you feel like self deleting, you're I won't say you're doing something wrong, but there could be a different way to tweak what you're doing that could actually preserve your own life, that can make things a bit easier for you than just putting all your eggs in something so volatile. Don't try to reason with a person who's unreasonable. Don't try to negotiate with a terrorist. Don't try to reason with a person who is not emotionally stable and who runs off of emotions. It's pointless. A lot of modern women they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and you just kind of have to let them do what they're gonna do. Them and the top 10, 15% of men that they cling to, they're going to do what they do. Those men are gonna go and come as they please, and they're gonna run through all the broads, right? That's how the cookie crumbles. Of course, you got guys getting in where they can. This wasn't as mean as I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to get really angry. I thought I was going to get belligerent, but I'm very calm. Stop living in fantasy land. Women aren't the angels you think they are. They're not the the panacea of morality. They're not. They're not the paragon of faith. They're not any more or any less moral than us. And here's the thing: we're not better than them morally, at least not without a reason. Now, men are morally more advanced than women, but this is the reason, than women in general. But this is the reason. The reason is because we're put in a position where we have to struggle. When you put someone in a position where they have to struggle, I think the moral compass of a person who struggles versus a person who doesn't struggle looks very different as a result of how they adapt and survive. And our moral system coincides with our method of adaptation for survival. So if we have extreme conditions versus moderate conditions, it's going to shape what our uh, morality system is. For example, the act of killing a baby, right? You look at the economy and how people can't afford to have children and raise them off of one income. You suddenly boost the economy and rearrange things, and then the average man, uh, or just one person in the household. I say average man because it's typically the men that that women want to be able to earn enough to so that they can be mothers, right? Women earning money is cool, but it doesn't do anything for society. Like it just is. It's more of a selfish general pursuit. But a guy earning money, he needs that in order to gain enough status to be chosen by women in order to have a family, right? It's not just some prideful, selfish pursuit just to say, "Oh, I had it," right? Because all the value that a woman needs, she's front loaded with it at birth. She has it already. But men, they have no value from the start. Right? It stays like that till they're like 35, close to 40, and then they gain more value. And then they're wanted after 20 plus years of being alone, miserable. Some of them. Now you get some men who are fine. They find girlfriends, and you get players, and you get the guys who are really successful for me. I have to leave room for nuance. But the point still stands. No, I'm not gonna be the guy here that says like, "Hey, man up," man up and fight it and go kick some A and go get those girls and stuff like. No, do what you want. All I'm saying is you need to bring these in here. So when you're chatting with the chicas, don't ever expect much from them. Don't ever expect too much from a person. Expect what they show you. Expect what they show you. You expect too much from a person, at least at first, right? Because you technically you do want to expect more of a person, but you have to develop a rapport for that to make sense. Rods of God.